Hey everybody, it's Barb Nangle, Community Manager of Known Co-working. Welcome to today's episode of the Connection Corner. I'm super excited to bring Amy Henderson today. She is going to take us through a workshop on user experience, and this is also like in person or virtual. I'm really excited to see it. I got to see a preview of her presentation a few minutes ago, and I can't wait. But before I bring Amy on, I do want to tell you a little bit about Known Co-working. So it's a dynamic co-working community to connect entrepreneurs across their fields of expertise, endeavors, and experiences. And though we started as a co-working space in downtown New Haven and are still the only one in downtown New Haven, we moved our community to the virtual world once the quarantine started. As a reminder, here at Known Co-working, we have hourly, daily, and monthly plans for dedicated desks, office spaces, conference rooms, and Zoom rooms available for rent. If you'd like to know more, feel free to send me an email, barb@knowncoworking.com. You can also check us out on our website, nhvknown.com, or follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Known Co-working and DM us there. Now, I mentioned that we had to move our community online when the pandemic arrived, and as a result, we now have 3 virtual programs. So there's this one, the Connection Corner, then there is Digital Media Sync, and there is Pivot Talk. You can catch free replays of all of these episodes on our website under Known Live. Digital Media Sync is hosted by Julia Gambale. She is the social media maven of Agents of Branding. It airs on Tuesdays at 8:30 in the morning. She just finished up a 7-part series, which was only bi-weekly actually over the summer. And it was co-hosted with Ive Square at the New Haven Free Public Library. And it was your digital toolkit. And it profiled all kinds of resources that you can get for free if you have a New Haven Free Public Library card. And she'll be back to her, regular broadcast going forward. And then we have Pivot Talk, which is a virtual stage for businesses to share and learn as they grow. That is on hiatus right now. And then, of course, there's this show, The Connection Corner. And it's for entrepreneurs, dreamers, thinkers, creators, innovators to share how they support the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Greater New Haven, or to provide some kind of knowledge-based workshop like we're doing today. So if you or anyone you know would like to be featured on one of these programs, we'd love to have you. Send me an email. Again, it's barb@knowncoworking.com. Our purpose in both the physical and virtual spaces is to make connections between people. We're here to help people get connected, inspired, and known. And speaking of getting known, I host virtual networking every Monday. It's from 4 to 5, and you can find the link on our website under events, and you can hop in for any part of the hour. It's my job here as the community manager to connect you to the people and the resources and the organizations you want and need to meet. So I love doing that. I can't stop myself. And then I also host in-person networking every Friday at Known, which is actually how I met Amy, who you're about to meet. And I loved her from the first time I met her. She's a really amazing human. So that's 3 to 5 every Friday at Known Co-working, which is 139 Orange Street, downtown New Haven. We're on the 4th floor. And please join me at any time, either one of these events. And without further ado, I want to bring on Amy. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, Barb.
So glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm really excited to see this. Just the little preview you gave me was crazy. So I was like, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. So I'm sure I'm going to learn something. So before you go into your workshop, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you know all this stuff?
Sure. Well, I'm a content designer. Presently, I work at Adapar, Wealth Management Solutions based in New York City. Before that, I was with Macy's, and before that, I was freelancing. So I kind of came into UX. I'm one of those people who started out in spaces of humanities. I studied music and French, and I was kind of fumbling a little bit to find that career path post-grad, and I ended up freelancing. I discovered UX. I took a UX design course. I got really interested in it. And I ended up developing a UX writing portfolio. I continued freelancing in UX writing, and then I ended up pursuing UX content as my full-time career.
Nice. Okay. So UX, for those not in the know, what does this mean?
UX is user experience. That's basically any kind of experience or interaction you have with almost anything that you can design.
Okay, wonderful. So do you want to go right into the workshop, or is there some setup that you want to talk about before you go?
No, I can just say, let's see, important things to say. Known is great. I co-work here typically once a week. It's just really nice to get out of the house, honestly, because I'm full-time at home. And I find there's plenty of space, easy, affordable call booths, which was a concern of mine when I started out. And I highly recommend it. So you can always come say, hey, we're over here. And now I'll get into it.
Yeah, and she's usually here for Friday networking. So
yeah.
Come here if you want to meet her in person. So I do want to tell people, we're live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. If you have comments or questions for Amy, go ahead and write them in there, and I will share them with her. Okay. So go ahead and share your screen, and I'll put it up on the live stream.
Click that. All right. Can you see it okay?
Yep. There we go. It's up.
Awesome.
Take it away, Amy.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining. I'm going to walk you through today a pretty high level or introductory way to think about user experience content strategy. So it's just a glance or a first look at end-to-end ways of thinking. So to get started, what do I mean by end-to-end? Because, that could encompass a lot of things.
Yeah, that was my question, actually. So I'm glad you're starting out by defining it. Okay, great.
Yeah, because it can be vague, and just like the word user experience can be vague. And all we're doing is, we're reaching out to define these things in vague spaces, but that doesn't mean it needs a strict definition. So how I think of end-to-end is anything that starts in one place and it ends in another. It also means things that can cross different types of content, meaning, a social media ad and maybe a newsletter and, whatever appears on your app home screen or on your website. So different types of content and how those content types interact, they match, they contradict. Various user interactions as well. So that can mean the first touch point that you have with a new product, like you watch a commercial and you learn about it. And then maybe you hear about it from your friend. That's also a part of the user experience. And then you start to look into the product and you visit the website, you make a purchase, you have to return the item. So end to end, again, thinking in that kind of horizontal or a wide frame of view. Mm-hmm. And then, I think that's pretty much it.
Great.
Cool. I have the power. I forgot to click. So when I think about user experience and how to describe it, because again, we're just trying to kind of define vague spaces. I think about things like, what were some of your favorite childhood experiences? Or where do you go? And the experience you have is almost always stressful. Most people say things like the DMV.
Yeah, that's the first thing that popped into my head. Yeah,
I feel so bad. Honestly, they've done a lot of work to improve their experience, all of the appointment scheduling, things like that. And then also a good question is, what is your favorite mobile app? Lately, mine has been TikTok because I always end up laughing. And I just had never had that experience from a mobile app before. So it's delightful. So Barb, do you want to answer one of these questions?
So I want to tell you about my favorite app, which is YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget. And I love it because what they say is we're a financial education company and we happen to keep the lights on by selling an app. And their user experience is over the top. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but everything they do is entertaining. And it doesn't matter whether you take in, like you learn best by watching a video, by listening to a podcast, by reading a blog, by watching a video, they have it. And everything they do is very entertaining. So they take what could be a very dry topic, which is finances, and they make it fun and entertaining, and they make it really super approachable, and they normalize a lot of behaviors that people think are crazy. Like I'm the only one that like buries my head in the sand on a regular basis about my finances, and they'll do like, okay, I'm going to stop talking because I could talk forever about YNAB, but if you don't have
That's funny.
I have more control and freedom around my finances in the last 2.5 years since I've been using it than ever in my life. So I'll stop.
Barb, I'm convinced you could sell anything.
Well, only if I love it.
That's awesome. No, that makes sense. Well, you had a positive experience. You continuously have a positive experience with that product. And what it sounds like is it's a continuous experience.
Yes.
I think a lot of products, they end up getting that person to download it, but then after a while they see a drop-off rate. And when you can really have, a power user, that means somebody who uses the product regularly, they're very engaged. That's how you really get the word out there. So that sounds like they have a great user experience.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we just defined. User experience is how a person interacts with a company, a service, a product. You could also take it so far as to any kind of experience. There's people out there who design experiences in museums, for example. Where do you start in the museum? Where do you end in the museum? What kinds of information do you want to learn? What kind of feelings are they trying to evoke? So user experience is anything that thinks about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to give a concrete example, I know I'm someone, when I learn best through examples. So if you're new to user experience, here is one. Think about shipping a package like 10 years ago. You had to go to the store. You had to get a box. You had to buy some stuffing, the packing tape. I hope you had a scale at home. If you didn't, you'd have to guess the weight by picking it up. You look at the shipping cost, you print the label, you go to the store, you wait in line, the item is weighed. By the time you pay, you've probably spent 2 to 3 hours just trying to get this box out of your house. So we look at this person sitting over here and they're just saying, I don't have the time. So when you think about someone who provides shipping services, first they're saying, how can we make them do it all in the store? Or how can we help them do it all in the store? Maybe now they just go to the store, they give them the item, they weigh the item, they decide the shipping speed, the store prints the label, they pay, and they're done. It's kind of all in one space, as opposed to before we saw, they had to do it a bit at home, they had to do it a bit in the store. But this is still taking, a lot of time. So let's go ahead and optimize it even further. What if we made an app? Like, imagine there was an app where you can pre-ship the package in the app. So you can take a photo of the item you're trying to ship and it will estimate the weight based on the photo and the type of item. Maybe you add a description. You could select a shipping speed. They'll give you a cost estimate that you pay in advance with a QR code. You don't have to wait in line. You just drop the package off and they're going to mail it for you. No box,
does
no
this
nothing.
Exist?
No. I don't know if this exists.
Okay. I was like, I want this. Okay.
Exactly. No, exactly. So what you just saw, though, is you saw a basic human problem, and we went ahead and we said, okay, let's start solving the problem. We don't have to solve every problem. Now, how can we solve more problems within the problem? So that's kind of how user experience people work. They look at problems and they just kind of start to dig into the problem. They live in the problem space to understand how to solve it. So what is a product is a big question, not so easy to answer. I say it's pretty much anything that anyone interacts with. So looking at this image, they're sitting on a park bench. That's a product. They're wearing clothing. Product. They have a phone. Product. Maybe their identity is a product. Maybe their identity is something that was sold to them. The plants, maybe they were bought from a store. The messages, maybe they're prefabricated messages that are automatically sent based on the response from the other person. So as you start to think about what is a product, you can really get very high level, big thoughts, but the reality is you can kind of put whatever definition you need on it to make it tangible for you. Okay, so what do people do in user experience? So this circle on the far left is kind of an overview that I put together, and forgive me if I miss things, because it's a big field. There's a lot of jobs that you can do. This is the highest level that I could think of. So you have people who design. That means they go in and they look at the problem and they create physical or technology solutions to that problem. It can be an app. It can be, like I said, a museum designer, things like that. You have UX writers or strategists. So that's what I do. I go in and I think about the communication, the conversation. Where does the conversation take place? How does it take place? Do we say too much, too little? Where is the brand? You can think about research, and that's where the researcher will go and say, hi, I see that you use our product. What do you think? Does this work? Is there something that you're missing? But then they could also do research to kind of say, hey, we have this idea. Can you test this for us? And then you have, directors, things like that. And then the coolest thing is that really it all ties together. And there isn't a job for all of these things. For example, if you're at a startup, you might be the writer, the designer, do some operations. You might also be a product manager. A product manager is someone who kind of helps bring the vision of a product to life. So you might do that, and you might communicate the most with your engineers. Your engineers might also run operations. So really, there's a lot of different roles and jobs that a person can fit into. It all depends on the company size and the skill set that you have.
Wonderful. I'm all of those things in my business.
Yeah, right?
No. I mean, I have like, contractors that I work with that like do my website and stuff, but I know how to do some of that stuff. I do all the writing, the designing, the operations, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I've done a few of these bubbles. I think I've done all 3 of these bubbles. I've done this bubble, and then I leave this to people who are much better at it than myself. Okay, so what do UX people do? We solve problems, and we do that in like a cyclical fashion. That means we go in a cycle. So we start with discovery. That means, what are other people doing? What's out there? What do our users or the people who use our product, what are they looking for? We design, so we build it. We test, does it work? We iterate, let's try again, and then we launch. And at any point, you can go back to any step in the process. So I might go and launch it and then say, oh, you know what? I really need to fix the design. Let's test that again. Oh, wait, but maybe there's some stuff we missed back in discovery. So it's a cycle, but really they all connect as well.
Okay, good.
So what is a UX writer? There's a lot of terms you can use for a writer, and depending on the size of your company, there may be certain niches or different fields that a writer can fall into. A UX writer is someone who writes for a user experience. So someone who looks at an experience and thinks about it and optimizes it. Again, super vague. Most people think of UX writers as people who write for digital products, specifically people who write for designs of digital products. So those are people who write copy for, a button or on your app. But it can also be people who write, the text messages. They can write full-length emails when you make a return to something. We also are called content designers and content strategists. The roles can differ slightly based on the kind of thinking that you do, but it all falls into the same user experience bucket. And there's a few more niches. You can get to microcopy. That's where you're writing really short phrases in the most concise way possible. Localization or internationalization. That's where you think, did I spell that wrong? Internationalize. I did.
Oh, no.
Funny. There you go. See, you can't get away with anything. All right. So localization is basically where you write a word and you're thinking about how could this word translate safely into like 8 different languages. Is it going to break the design? Meaning, is this button long enough to be in English and in German? Things like that. And then content writing, that can be niches. You could be an engineer content writer. That's like a technical type of writing. You could write blogs about beauty. Content writing can go anywhere and everywhere. And then there's some other things that were referred to as well. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to solve problems. I always recommend sitting in a problem space. A problem space is just the problem. It's that uncomfortable feeling of, I have a million ideas, but I'm not going to say them right now because I need to truly understand what is happening here. It requires a lot of patience and listening. And I recommend people sit in the problem space as long as they can before moving forward into problem solving. So also knowing your audience. So, who are you selling your product to, or who are you trying to engage? Understanding the brands. I said, understand who's counting on you. That means, like, who do you work with? Who do you work for? What are you getting at? So it's a lot of accountability to be aware of all of the parties at the table, the user being the primary. And then user experience writers, we think a lot about systems and rules of governance. So see, another typo, system of rules and governance. So I'll flip
You're
that
not
later.
being graded, Amy. It's okay.
It's so funny. No, but this is critical. So anyways, basically, whenever you build something, you want to have kind of a little bit of a structure around it. And the bigger the thing that you're building, the more structure you might need. But then there gets to be this weird threshold of, we're super big, we can't be so strict. It's like this weird area of, when you're small, you kind of want to be flexible. When you get bigger, you need more rules. When you get super big, too many rules is really hefty.
Right. That's
so
what's
it's
called
kind
a
of
giant bureaucracy, and it's annoying. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
And
totally
I think the reason it gets so complicated is because there's so much complexity that it's impossible to think about all the implications of an action that happens here, and what are the ripple effects outer. And I think about, when I've interacted with an organization that's a huge bureaucracy, that they have a policy in this one area that conflicts with a policy elsewhere,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Things conflict in UX writing all the time. For example, let's say I make a rule on where to use exclamation points, because we don't want to be too excited all the time. So I say you can use 2 exclamation points per page. But then, I go in and I really wanted 4 here, but then I wanted 1 here. Am I allowed to use the semicolon? So when we think about these systems and rules of governance in copy, we're thinking about things like character length, thinking about how we order the content. If it's instructions, let's use numbers. If it's a random set of things, maybe bullet points are better. Okay, so if we think about a button, how many ways can you say okay? Done, save, got it, complete, finish. There's so many ways. Well, what happens if everybody working in different areas of a company says it in all different ways? You can end up kind of undermining your streamlined user experience. So that's where we create, systems and rules. Maybe instead of saying only okay, we say okay, save, and next. And we kind of come up with a vague concept of the times that's best to use those words. Okay. That's the type of work a UX writer would do.
That is a fantastic example. I love it. I totally get it. I love it.
I've run into it a trillion times everywhere I have worked. It's like really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So some common principles. Principles are just values that we hold to make sure we're providing the best experience as we're writing for users. We want to be clear. That means your order arrives Monday. Boom. Done. No confusion, unless it's next Monday, and then we should probably fix it. But let's say it's this Monday. This is really clear. Versus your order shipped and will arrive soon. I mean, it's clear, but also there's no definition, and I really want to know when I'm getting my shoes. Okay, concise, that means short, but not without. Download file, done. Click here to download the file. Not really concise.
Gotcha.
There's a big argument that it's not an argument really. It's an argument with me and myself about what's better, to be consistent or contextual. I define consistent as every experience that you have across the experience. And contextual is like the exact defined experience. So that means if I'm clicking the save button, let's say we're in an app. And in this app, there are 20 buttons and they all say save. But what are you saving? You could save all of these things. You could save changes, updates, address, whatever. if the user is confused, or if the person is confused, you can always be a little more contextual. Save changes. Great, I know exactly what I just saved. But what you risk is having save view, save number, save address, save updates. Where do you draw the line? So it's really challenging. You could say the same thing with download. What am I downloading? If that's a question the user has, you should consider putting what they're downloading into the button, for example. Okay, and then another principle is to be active. Sign in to view information. To view information, sign in. So where is the action word? The verb is at the start of the sentence. Image saved, as opposed to the image was saved. This is very passe. I love writing in past tense, except we want to be active and direct. Okay, accessibility is always on the front of my mind as often as possible. And it's something that I have weaved into my writing style. And even you've probably noticed the way that I speak. I often offer two words to define a word whenever I'm saying it out loud, at risk that someone might not understand me. So ways to be accessible for writing, you can just break up the content by using lists or bullet points. Have you ever gone on a website and there was 8 big paragraphs and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Today, I was trying to look up something. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even believe anything they're going to say because it's a giant paragraph.
No. So that's, that's an accessibility concern, especially if you think of people who are easily overwhelmed. People who struggle to focus. Focus is a big thing. We write often for a certain reading level, and it's not because people didn't get past 6th grade. It's because people don't take the time, have the attention span to read those 8 paragraphs. Can those 8 paragraphs be 8 bullet points or 8 bolded headers with some paragraphs underneath? We also want to avoid assumptions and cognitive overload. Just because they're experts doesn't mean they want to think. So something to always remember is to not assume that someone you're working with knows what's going on. So you want to make it as light as possible while still providing the important and essential context. Of course, use alt text. Write for a screen reader. They go left to right, and also understand accessible technologies.
So tell people what you mean by alt text. Not everybody knows what that means.
Thank you. Yeah, alt text is the text that accompanies an image. For example, if I was writing alt text for this image, I might say something like girl standing or girl slouching around colorful bubbles and leaves. Something that is a sentence that accompanies the image. So if someone is not looking at the image, or if someone is unable to see the image, they might be able to hear it, specifically for a screen reader or anytime you use an inspect tool or something.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so to continue, I wanted to give a few examples of how this happens in pseudo real life. This is an app I made up the other day. It's called Run Goals with a Z. And it tracks miles, you can make running routes, and you can earn coins for perks and giving to social causes. I don't know if this is an actual app. I didn't look it up, and I probably should have. So if this is an actual app and it's a misrepresentation, I sincerely apologize. I don't believe it is. So looking at a case for this made up app, we have a problem. People don't want to log their runs. Actually, 70% of people stop at 7 of 10 runs. Oh, an important part of this app is that once you get to 10, you get the coins. So if you run 10 times a month, you get some coins. So we have people who aren't getting to 10. They find that the app is too utility focused. Maybe and 85% of people who are almost there just don't finish. So generically, there was a good job when you finish your run. I'm going on a run. I just finished. Good job. but then nothing else appears when you complete the run. So we have a hypothesis to solve this problem. By helping users get to 10 runs and adding copy, we can have less people leave the app. So we'll just like introduce more fun copy. So that's where I get to sketching. That's when I'm thinking of what are all of the ways that I can approach solving this problem. Right now, it's just good job. Maybe I should say you can do it, which is optimistic but generic. Maybe I should be specific. You've got 5 days left to get 7 runs in. It's concise. So I was taking a few different approaches. Here we've got like specific with optimism. You've got 5 days left to get 7 runs in. Keep it up. Here, a little too specific. That's almost a paragraph. Here we inserted some brand voice. Excuse me, we have a champion in our midst.
I love it.
So after thinking of those different approaches, I fell into being light and encouraging, to try counting, and to be branded and playful. So light and encouraging will look like this. Keep running, halfway there. Counting, you've completed 2 of 10 runs. You've completed 3 of 10 runs, 4 of 10 runs. So it's a little redundant, you know? And then this is the brand voice. Your feet were flying back there. Good running back there. Excuse me, you're the coolest runner I know.
Awesome. Of course, I love the last example of that.
Yeah, right? So at the end of thinking about, so we just finished sketching, which is where we think of all the ways we could go. We're going to test it. And here's what happened. People said, I think it's annoying to always be voicey. I like to keep it short. I just ran. I don't want to read too. So we got some feedback from people. And then we go back and we evaluate, we refine, and we think ahead. This is my favorite time to think ahead. How is it scalable? Meaning, can I like make this go bigger? Is there a way that I can use this copy in other spaces of our product? Should it be alternating, or should it have variations? So I'm going to refine, and after doing that, this is what I came to. I want to be light and encouraging, specific, but only when it's urgent, have a dash of branding, and have 2 variations of the copy that will switch. So it feels like it's kind of always something new. Mm-hmm. So examples. Oh, and then very important, people in the test said they really like to know how far they've gone. So we asked the designer to add this accumulator bar, which is a bar that shows the progress of your runs. So your feet were flying back there. Keep it up. Great job. You're halfway to this month's goal. Hey, nice running back there. So you see that we're kind of mixing it up. It's this combined approach. And then when they made it, the goal is complete. The users were like, yep, this makes sense. Or I like that you encourage me to finish. So at this point, we just validated our work. We were looking for any problems that might happen, and we're finalizing the copy. And there's always more to consider. This is a rabbit hole that is really easy for new writers, or really any writer, to fall into. I know I do often, that there's always more you can do. For example, we could add their name. We could think about consistency. What if they were like 5 in a row? Now that's impressive. We could insert the time of the month and the number of runs left. But we're not going to do that now because we're out of time. We are out of budget. Maybe we don't have enough engineers to do all of that work. It's very contextual. And we just want to get our MVP, minimum viable product. What that word means is it's the simplest form that has like the most value. So you can just ship it, go, and then fix it down the road and iterate. So we're going to ship it. Keep an eye on it, make sure it works, and hopefully your drop-off rate will go down. Okay. Do you have any questions about that case bar before I go into case 2?
No, I don't, but it was really, really helpful. And it makes me think, like, I have an app where I keep track of how much water I drink. And they have 4 things that they say, and it's really boring. So I just don't even pay attention to it anymore.
Yep.
It's literally,
Totally.
I've been using it for months, and I get the same exact 4 messages every day.
Yeah, no, I could see where that would happen. And Yeah, so this made up app, they tackled that problem. So here's another problem. Maybe run goals, users don't know much about their brand, and they love to run, but they don't know what the brand stands for. And it's really hard to calculate how much do people know me. You know, it's hard to kind of calculate that kind of stuff. So we tried to get some data. We know that people aren't using the app as much, and people who were using the app a ton, it's slowly going down. That means people are leaving the product, and the products they're going to are products with a stronger brand message. So we have a hypothesis. We're going to think about different touch points for how we can share our story and the good we do, you know, because this brand, they do help people. So we were thinking about, okay, like, where can people be helped? How can we do it? And where do we put that in the content? So something I didn't mention in the last case was discovery. That's often an essential phase where you go in and you look at competitors and you see how other people are doing it. Okay, so with something like this, remember the case is people don't know the story of your brand. There's a lot of touch points. So you want to think horizontally and find the best touch points to get at and to dig into. So after thinking about every touch point with this product, we decided to adjust the onboarding, to add some marketing, to look at a few emails, and to optimize the coin center to give to social causes. Alongside that, we came up with a few phrases just to get started to see how we feel about them. So we're referring to our causes as social causes. We're just calling it giving. You could call it donations as well. And then we had a tagline that we wanted to start: run, give, live healthy.
Nice.
Okay, so this is the app coin screen as it was. So it's just, you know, generic message. It shows you the coins you have, and then all of the places that you can use your coins to get things. So there's a couple approaches we could take to subtly insert a bit of story. We just broke it into two sections: give to social causes. And then all of a sudden, you're not just getting, you're now giving. So it's kind of a choice. You can give or you can receive. Another approach that they considered was they inserted the tagline, and they really made it a brand focus to put it at this high level in their product. Not only that, but they brought people together, and instead of being individual, where just the person gets the thing, they used the collective mind to raise a collective coin amount to
Peer
reach
pressure.
a goal together. Yep, so it's thinking about the different ways that they're using the products. And how do we use content? Well, you can see here that we're using some of those taglines. We're communicating to our person who's using the product. Okay. Also looking at the newsletter. This is where we said, let's add a partner spotlight. We partner with, and I just made this up as well, the Rural Runners Project. I don't know if it's a real project, but the concept is that they give to people to buy shoes. So they just added a spotlight to their newsletter. They also have a monthly summary that they have always sent, except now they're adding a giving section to their monthly summary for the coins that you have given. Or you could add like a post donation surprise. So imagine that you give some coins to a charity, and then all of a sudden you open your email and they're like, hey, because you gave, we're going to give back to you, and we're going to give more to them.
Nice.
So what we're doing is we're thinking of different touch points where we can kind of sprinkle this story that our brand is engaging with these causes. You can do it in social and mobile ads as well. You can do it through push notifications. You can do it in an onboarding. So that's when you download the app for the first time. Right here, we just added it. Earn coins for perks and giving to social causes. So we're using this consistent language to tell this consistent story. And before you know it, Run, Give, Live Healthy it's not just a campaign, it's a part of your brand that is improving the storytelling of your brand on multiple touch points in that what we call end-to-end user experience. And that's kind of it. So just to summarize, we went through what is user experience? What is UX writing? How does it fit into the ecosystem? And then we dove into a couple of specific use cases or problems that the made-up app Run Goals solved. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so I'm going to take that off screen. And you had put up that people could connect you on LinkedIn too, so I'll put that up as well. But that was really comprehensive, and it was amazing because I was both experiencing it as a user of apps and being like, oh, I recognize what you're talking about as a user of apps. And then I'm also an entrepreneur I don't have an app, but I have a user experience for my clients. And so I have an onboarding process, and I have a membership community, and I have a Facebook group, and I have an Instagram page and stuff like that. And so thinking, so it was like I was literally going in and out of being the creator and the user for the experience. So that was a really cool experience. I loved it.
Good. Yeah, I would just advise you, if you're just opening your mind as an entrepreneur to this kind of concept to optimize your experience, to think about the way you leverage your content, I just would say start small. It's really easy to go down a rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Small incremental changes to improve your experience is a really effective way to make sure that you're doing it in a way that best serves your business and your clients, things like that.
So you mentioned that you did freelancing. Do you still do freelancing? Like, let's say somebody wanted you to consult with them or to be the writer for them. Do you do that?
I will say maybe. I'm transitioning right now from a space of I used to freelance a lot and then also work to kind of having a better work-life balance. And I'm really enjoying my new job. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. But if they contacted you and you didn't want to take the job, do you have peers that you could refer them to? Okay.
Yeah, loads. And if they have a question and they really want to talk about it, I'm more than happy to just kind of look or do a short free consultation, things like that, and then give them a referral to the best person who can help. And at Known, honestly, Known is a great way to connect with other people, so they can definitely come here too.
Yeah, fantastic. Will you be here tomorrow? I know you're normally here Friday.
I came in today. So
yeah, that's what I figured.
We'll see. Yeah, it's so funny.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to take you off screen. And since you're here in the building, I feel like we can connect. I normally ask the person to say, "Oh, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to do a screenshot. Are you okay with that?"
Okay. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, let me just make sure I do it. All right, I'm gonna let me do a couple of them. I will let you go after that, and I will wind down with everybody. And remind them what else we have coming up. So I've got my screenshots. Thank you so much, Amy.
Oh, you already took it? That's so funny.
I took a couple of them.
So I'll pick the best one. Okay, that's
I'll pick the best one. All right. Well, thank you again, Amy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. All right. Thank you so much for watching the show. I hope you got a lot out of it. I can think of a couple people that I'm absolutely going to share it with because there was a lot of really wonderful detail in there. So we will be back on this program on October 20th with Kenyatta Banks of the Women's Business Development Council. And we'll see you then. Oh, don't forget Tuesdays, Digital Media Sync at 8:30 in the morning. And if you want to leave comments even after the fact, go ahead and do that, and we can get them to Amy if you want us to. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic day. Thanks again.